Hi, my name is Selena Asko, and today I'm going to be talking about industrial catastrophes. More specifically, I'm going to talk about the inequality that can be seen within social classes and how that happens at an industry level, in jails, and just in general. So, also, when we are looking at the inequality in social classes, we are able to see stratification theory and also the paradigm of conflict. So some of the ways that we see these are some examples of these that can be seen and that I found helped me were through an author who did an interview about the inequality of social classes within the justice system. Not specifically just jails, but in the system in general. And then there's also multiple articles that go into some detail about those. And so I am first going to talk about what stratification theory is. So when I don't know the exact definition, but this basically means I basically is talking about social classes. It's talking about the different levels of social classes, or social status. And in the definition, it does use the word hierarchy. And when someone hears hierarchy, this means people placed above others, like the different levels or rankings of people. So our society as a whole chooses to rank people based on the money they have or the money that they can spend. This can create different conflicts within those social classes. So social classes are the different divides that we see within people. This includes the first class, which is people with most money or that spend less money. Second class would be your middle class, and then there's the third class, and also known as the lower class. So all of those different classes will create some conflict between people. Lower class people may feel that, or higher class people may look at lower class people in a bad way, judging them, and despite whether they do actually do this or not, lower class people may feel as though this is happening to them. Conflict also creates those problems within social class problems create more problems when the social classes are brought into places like jails. That is what the author that did an interview I was talking about is actually wrote her book about. Her name is Rena Steinzor. She talks about industrial catastrophes, which are technically described as like creating some version of panic or stress like everywhere. So when she's talking about these so they create stress in different areas because something bad happened, and when these happen, they can come from a very large source, as in a corporate company, and the person in charge of here, usually known as an executive, is not charged properly with what they have done. Due to their high levels of status, they do not have to experience the precautions or the actions for the consequences for their actions because they have a high status. This becomes unfair because if someone else of a lower citizen were to do the same thing, they may not receive the same punishment per se. They may receive something much worse. Also, people with more money can have more or better lawyers and better help, and someone that's a lower class may not have that, so they're not going to be able to fight their case as well. that is something that I learned within the websites that I looked on. That I looked on that stuck with me is the Forbes website. Forbes is a website that discusses millionaires and people with lots of money, and there's literally an article that's all about people that went to jail, or first-class citizens that went to jail, and it discusses, some of them have been punished for their actions, but some have not. One of the people, his last name is Kwak. He walked away from his sentence without serving the entire thing. He paid a very small amount that he had used him, so he had bribed someone and he had to pay a very small fraction of what that was. And despite all of the things that happened, he is still a millionaire. So because of the social class status that he held, he was able to keep his job. That is probably one of the things that surprised me most. That entire website as a whole showed a lot of people that did not receive the correct punishment, and many of them did not have to pay, and many of them still remained as being a billionaire. I think if they worked for that, that is fine, but if they're still a billionaire, that means they had the money to pay back what they used, and that should be given, or that should be used for them. Overall, I think that was probably the biggest thing that I learned and that surprised me, is that people are not always correctly punished for their actions, and that's the biggest takeaway that I think people should take, and that should be fixed.